Hello, I'm Ross Atkin and I'm a product designer. I've designed all kinds of products, from bits of this vacuum for Dyson, to this robot kit, to benches, to litter bins, to apps and websites. A lot of my work involves trying to make things work better for disabled people, and I was in a TV show called The Big Life Fix, where a team of designers and engineers built one-off bits of technology to help solve problems for people. I spend a lot of time on this empathy phase of the design process, trying to understand as much as possible about other people's lives in order to be able to design things that work for them. For me, it's actually our most important job as designers, and I don't think you can really be a designer if you're not interested in people. Here are the things I try and think about when I'm doing research with people. First of all, respect. You have to respect the people you're working with and appreciate that they know much more about their lives than you do. Never assume anything about someone. Just ask them politely instead. You also need to understand that they are probably doing you a big favour by helping you with your research, so make sure you treat them like you understand that. I'm quite against doing things that some designers call empathy exercises, because I don't think they respect the people that designers are claiming to want to empathise with. If you want to know what it's like to be in someone's shoes, speak to them and watch them. Don't dress up as them. Secondly, if possible, combine watching and speaking. When you speak to people, they will tell you all kinds of useful and important things, but it's also really useful to observe them in the context you're designing in. I found there are two main reasons for this. Firstly, there's a lot of scope for misunderstanding when people talk about the world around them. This is particularly true in street design, where there are a lot of technical words that designers and engineers use, and research participants sometimes use them too, but mean something totally different from what the specialists mean. This only comes out when I follow them on a journey and they point out something they're standing on. The other reason it's important to watch people is that sometimes they don't actually do what they say they do. So it's important to design for their actual behaviour, not their ideal behaviour. It's also possible you'll spot something important that they don't realise is important. For example, on The Big Life Fix I was working with a little girl called Isla, who has cerebral palsy, which means she has difficulty controlling her arms and legs, making it difficult to play with her sister Kyra. By watching Isla at school, I saw that she was really good at driving her wheelchair, so I realised that a toy that could be controlled like that would work well for her. Thirdly, focus on aspiration. When you're interviewing someone about some area of their life where you're trying to do some design, it's really easy to get bogged down in the detail of whatever they're doing at the moment and their frustrations with that. All of this is important information that you want to collect during the interview, but you don't want to start with it. So for example, if you were trying to design a better kettle, you wouldn't start with, "What do you think of your kettle?" It's better to start the interview with some more open questions to try and discover the person's aspirations. So maybe ask them instead about what makes them feel comfortable at home, or to describe their ultimate morning routine. You can then zoom into the detail as the interview goes on. With Isla and Kyra, I asked them to describe their ultimate toy and tried to draw it for them, though Isla insisted I put the pen in her mouth and drew it herself. Another question I often ask is, if you had a magic wand, what would you use it for? It's a great question to discover the problems that people really want someone to solve. Finally, structure. Before you start your research, it's useful to think about how you want to structure it. What questions you want to ask your participants, what do you want to observe, and how do you want to collect the information? There are lots of ways you could do this. I use still images, videos, and sound recordings a lot. But I also sometimes make tools to use with the participants in an interview. For example, these maps I used to understand who older people were in touch with. Or these tactile models I made in order to discuss street design proposals with blind and partially sighted people. That's all I've got to say for this week. The most important thing is to go into this with an open mind, to be led by what you learn, and not to make assumptions about people. Thanks for watching. See you next week.